Hi, everybody. John Haldy here, and I'm super excited to welcome Rick Dunn with me. Rick's with Linehaul Solutions. Rick, welcome.
John, thank you for having me. I am so happy to be here. How's everything with you?
Everything is good, and I am super stoked to tell your story because you and I met recently, and I was fascinated by it. For everyone who is not familiar with you yet, you've been a contractor for a while, correct?
Yep, coming on 10 years.
And recently, though, you've pivoted. Something passionate has struck you, and you have gone into a whole new direction with Linehaul Solutions. Can you share a little bit about what that's all about?
Yes, without a doubt. So Linehaul Solutions was created really to assist contractors. As we all know, FedEx is a phenomenal business, but doesn't necessarily offer a handbook. They don't roll out the red carpet for these new guys coming on, the new contractors.
Yep.
And where we see ourselves positioning is really, you're a new contractor, you're coming in, you need information, you need help. We want to provide that to you and get you ready to roll prior to you becoming a contractor. So
what I love about this is you're not a broker trying to sell routes for someone else. You're actually representing and advocating for the buyer to help them figure out what to buy, what to pay for it, right?
exactly.
And coaching them through this whole process.
Without a doubt. And that's extremely probably the most important value added I think we bring to the business or the new business is the coaching. It's the getting new contractors prepared. We take them through an 8-week boot camp. We are helping them develop their manuals, their safety manuals, their employee manuals. We want them to be fully spun up contractors, ready to hire drivers, process drivers, ready to run these runs prior to when the contract is actually up and running. That's our goal. And it's been going fantastic. It's so exciting.
So just so I'm clear, because some of this is new to me, the 8-week boot camp, is that for someone who's thinking about maybe getting in the space, or is that for someone further along in the process who's committed to doing this and you're getting them stood up?
That is a fantastic question, John, and one that we are talking a lot about right now. So it's only been for people who are under contract. The whole point of the boot camp is really to coincide with that 3-month journey that someone has to take from submitting a BD 030 to actually take over the runs all the way through the entire process. And we like to hit every week with really what you should be thinking about and going on through the process. Now, I understand that we can provide a lot of value to this space by offering that to maybe someone who is not potentially under contract just yet, but knows that they're going to be. And I'd be crazy to say we're not going to offer those services very soon in another exactly same formatting, maybe a quicker course for people to get through it faster. People have to go on a journey when they come into the space. I certainly spent weeks, we spent months researching what the hell, FedEx is and subcontractor model and how do, P&D versus line haul. And I think if that time could be spent with us, we could add a lot of value and a lot of efficiencies towards their mental educational process in terms of whether even deciding to become a contractor or not. And if you do want to come on, we probably have the right answers for you.
So right now, you don't actually have structured training or education for someone who's thinking about getting into it, but folks who are thinking about it should contact you to have conversations around it?
Without a doubt. It's one thing that I want to make myself available. This is a new business for me. This is a new venture. I am absolutely extremely excited about it. And I have a fantastic team that is just as excited about with me. And it's fun. Like, we're having a great time. We make videos and I spend all day making memes and, editing videos. We're having fun.
What a meme is.
Oh my God. You got to check out my Instagram page, John.
It's social media. I'm a dinosaur. I'm not a young guy like you.
No, it's fun and it's so easy. Next is TikTok. I got to teach myself how to use that because that's where all the kids are these days, right? And so essentially, we're having a great time. Call me, message me, and at least let me have that initial conversation with you and maybe give you some color to the life of a FedEx contractor. I will say great things about it. I'm biased. I love this space. FedEx has been so good to me over the years. It's been so good to my family and hundreds of drivers and employees we've brought on. So I'm biased, but I can give you very honest opinions about where the space is headed and how I think any potential, someone fits in based on their needs.
But what I really like about what you're doing is that you have your incentives properly aligned with the person trying to get into the space. If you think about what often happens with people, they start looking, they watch a few videos, and then they call a broker representing something, and that's their sole source of information. And they lose sight of the fact that the broker is just trying to sell something and move on to the next transaction. I like the fact that you are sitting on the same side of the table as the buyer, and you're going to stick with them to get them through that process and get them stood up successfully and start their entrepreneurial journey the right way. I'm madly in love with what you're doing in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot. I appreciate it. And let's be honest, I saw a need. There was a severe need in this marketplace for someone to represent the buyers. I needed representation, right? I needed to know what to do coming in. I didn't know. We figured it out. And it took a long time before we were really comfortable in the totality of what the life of a line haul contractor is. And we can make that process so much more smoother, much more efficient use of time during that learning stage. And let's be honest, I'm going to make sure that you don't get taken for a ride. I'm going to make sure that whatever you're buying is legit. We have a saying, show me the A1. Show me the A1. That is, in FedEx gives out 150-page contract. And in part of that, you have the Schedule A, and then you have the Schedule A1, which lists the runs that a contractor owns. And the goal is for everybody to understand exactly what it is that they're buying in this process. That's where we come in. And I would love to have a conversation with anybody who's thinking about going through that process, whether it's through me or whether it's even involved with somebody else bringing you to the space. Let's have a quick conversation.
As you know, I write software that helps people analyze their business. But one of the things that we don't do today, we hope to, is analyzing the value of the runs. And no two runs are the same. An assigned team that's doing 4,800 miles a week is a very different beast than an unassigned team that's trying to do 2,200 miles a week on the wheel. It's totally different. And until you've been in this space and you see how the numbers cascade down and the pain that can happen when suddenly you don't run for 4 days because it's unassigned, people mistakenly think that you can just look at that gross revenue number and figure out what's going on in the business. It's not true, is it?
It's not remotely true. And no two runs are alike. And how we assign value to the runs in large part is dependent on profitability, and margins are the most important. Ease of ownership, how simple this run is to own, how many problems it's going to cause you, also comes into play as well. It's funny. I spoke to one of my contacts earlier today. They had a dedicated team run, and it sounded great to me. They turned the run down. Essentially, they decided they didn't want to do it anymore, and they converted it to an unassigned team run because of the way that dedicated team run ran, how long it was sitting for. The freight patterns weren't optimal, and that all comes into play. You could have two runs, one leaving Woodbridge, one going to California, Rialto, one leaving Woodbridge, and the other one goes to Tracy, let's say. Cross-country runs, phenomenal runs. These are top-tier dedicated team runs. But if that Woodbridge run gets turned out of Rialto immediately and that Tracy run sits for 12 hours before it comes back, which one's better for you? Which one do you want? You want the one that's turning the guys quicker, that gets your guys more home time, because those drivers are going to be happier on that run. And everything, we have to look at how the runs operate and the convenience of ownership. Because like you said, not two runs are the same, especially when we're trying to assign value to them. those things come into play. In my opinion, they come into play. And I like to evaluate those. So I evaluate the totality of the business or the runs that are being transferred, how smoothly those runs work together.
I also like the fact that your business model is predicated on doing a phenomenal job so you'll get the next client. Because with brokers, it's very transactional. Sell you something, move on to the next one. If you're unhappy, too bad. There's somebody else selling and somebody else buying. We'll return your call next month, maybe. With you, I'm guessing for your business to be successful, you need a bunch of successful contractors who are going to be out there giving you testimonials, telling people you should be working with Rick, right?
100%, which is a little pressure.
Sure.
But in the sense that it's warranted. It's not me, right? You've met some of the people on my team. Like, I'm hooked up. I got solid people, and they certainly offset a lot of my shortcomings. But we have to do a good job. We have to add value to these businesses that we are creating from scratch sometimes, and ensuring that these contractors are successful. And how do you define success? So it's really a profitable business that has the ability to grow. That's success in FedEx, right? You need those margins, which everybody preaches are so sexy, and they are. And you need to be able to grow that business. And you have to want to grow that business. That's success.
Hold on, though. In case folks have watched some other videos, there are good margins. There's also people out there talking about margins that are fantasy land. So to be clear, talk to Rick directly and get from him what the margins really are. I just want to clarify that, because there's some folks out there spewing some nonsense, numbers that just aren't grounded in any reality.
Best part about this business is if you know how to look through the settlement statements, or if maybe you had access to like a software where you could dump all the settlement statements into and it could spit you out those numbers conveniently. The point is that we have access to the data, right? You have your revenue and you have the schedule A1. You know what the run's contracted to do. You know the labor. That's easy. You don't know the fuel, but we know where that fuel ratio should be. And if we're only going to use the revenue, this is digging probably way too in the weeds, but if we're only using the revenue recently, then we're going to have to bump up the fuel surcharge. And I can get into more detail, if you call me. And then it's the trucks. What trucks are we using on these runs? If I'm selling you a business and the runs aren't conducive to doing the runs, you need different trucks. So you can't look at my price point for my trucks, my maintenance, my lease plus mileage rate on those trucks. You need to look at it from your perspective. And that's where we're looking at it. We're looking at this from a buyer's perspective. What business are you going to own when this is done? Where's the opportunity when you're running this business yourself?
I like the analogy, if you'll permit me to maybe go off on a tangent here, because I recently got a pilot's license. You're not in the business of selling planes. You're a CFI. You're a certified flight instructor. You're in the business of making sure that people go up safely and land the plane safely and go home to their family and everything goes well. Fair?
Yes, so fair. And I'm going to use that. Thanks, John.
So, Rick, at its core, I've been told, and I think this is true, being a FedEx line haul operator is two things. It's being an outsourced staffing agency and being a fleet manager. Would you agree with that?
Yes, without a doubt. Those are your two main issues as a contractor. You got to have drivers. You got to be able to recruit. And then number 4, I think, is being able to keep those trucks up and running and serviceable.
And so the first 3, recruit. Do you help educate folks on how to do it themselves, or work with partners, with vendors, with recruiters to do that?
Yes, we do whatever we need to do to get the job done. We will recruit for you. We will work with a outside recruiter. There are absolute fantastic recruiters in the space right now. And ideally, we are training you to recruit, because the greatest recruiter for any FedEx line haul business is that contractor who is intimately familiar with every aspect of that run. I want to train you. I want to spend hours, however long it takes, turning you into a phenomenal recruiter and making sure somebody on your team is efficient in pushing them through First Advantage. So we're getting guys through and getting them processed. And that's what this space needs, recruiters.
And on number 4, after recruit, there's trucks, right?
Yep.
Do you help folks figure out things like buy versus lease, new versus old, FCAM equipment and other safety requirements? Do you help them figure out total cost of ownership? Do you deal with the vagaries today of what's actually available versus what you'd want ideally? Is that something you get your hands dirty with?
I have to, right? That's the biggest issue right now. We have 8 new contractors that are in this process of coming on board. Trucks are an issue for all of them. So I've got some good contacts just because I happen to have been doing this for 10 years and I bought trucks from all over the place. And yes, by all means, I feel like I am going to be able to access these white, although they can be any colored trucks for the next 2 years with FCAM, and the right truck for your run. You know, if someone's buying a dedicated team doing 6,000 miles, I'm probably not going to want to put them in that 2016 Cascadia pushing 800,000 miles on it. It's going to be a lot of frustration for new contractors. I want that lease trucks. I want to go to REL. I want to go, to a company called Pride we've used lately. There are companies that will lend to new contractors because they're under the FedEx umbrella. And that's the relationships we want to build. The space needs to continue building those relationships.
So speaking about education, I want to take it off track a little bit. Some folks might call you from watching this video, but other folks may say, forget Rick. I didn't like Rick, whatever, right? What do you want to tell those folks who are trying to get into this space, even if they're not going to use you? What should they know to educate themselves and prepare themselves for what this journey's like?
It's an absolute fantastic space. Do your research and don't take one person's word for it, especially if that person has an ulterior motive of trying to make a commission off of you. I have so much information online that we're putting on YouTube. This material, John has material. The information is out there. And you can certainly do your research independently of me if you choose to, because there are so many fantastic Linehaul contractors. It's such a positive time in this space for all of us. There's a unity amongst the Linehaul guys that there hasn't been before. And I attribute you and the other guys that put the summit on, let's be honest, to a lot of that we're experiencing. Go on Facebook, come to me and say, hey, can I talk to somebody who's doing this? I got a list of 50 contractors would be happy to have a conversation with somebody new. But yes, do your research and make sure the person that is sharing their opinion with you is not attached to them earning a commission, is what I would say.
For those who are just watching this for the first time, some of the things that Rick is referring to, there is a Facebook group, FedEx Ground Linehaul Contractors. It's a great community. You can't just post something like, how do I get started, and think that people are going to write you a small book. But if you have questions, you'd be amazed how many people will take the time to answer the question thoughtfully. Rick's got an Instagram channel. Rick, we'll post this down below, the links and all, but is there a quick way to get to your Instagram channel?
Linehaul _solutions.
That's a great source for information. I know that even if I get called all the time, I should say, and I'm in the software side of things, but I help connect people with interested parties who are willing to provide insight, coaching for a fee. Rick's one of them, but there's others. But you'd be amazed. The Linehaul Summit Rick mentioned was the first ever dedicated Linehaul conference that happened in July for FedEx contractors. And something special happened there. A lot of people got together and realized that they're all 98% of what they're all doing the same thing. And that by sharing information and helping each other, it lifts everybody's business. It lifts the strength of the network. It helps FedEx Ground run a better network. So it's good for everyone. And you'd be amazed how many people will step up and help newbies because other people help them. It's a chance to make it. Would you say that's true?
Extremely true. And I've seen it so much more lately in the past couple months than I have in the last 10 years. There's a vibe, there's a buzz, and people are in a good place. Optimistic. Peak season's around the corner. Let's all go out there, get some miles and get some damn money. We need it.
Now, to be fair, FedEx has some operational challenges that they need to work through. Hopefully, they're going to engage in a constructive manner with contractors to figure these things out. I think it's probably worse on the P&D side right now than on the line haul side. Also, to be fair, I know there's some people who aren't running their businesses well, and they're struggling. But I don't think the fault lies with FedEx. There's a lot of people who want to put it at FedEx's doorstep, but I know of a specific case where a contractor is struggling, and if someone else I know were running that business, they would be doing fine with those routes.
Sometimes I'll say a lot of sensational things, and I say this with zero sarcasm. If a contractor is not content with their business, and if they're struggling, and if they're looking to sell, you can usually boil that down to very few core issues. And the biggest one is always the inability of that contractor to recruit, or their unwillingness to pay for recruiting. Because if you have a lifeline of new drivers, you can grow, you can run your runs, and it gets much easier. It's recruiting. I truly believe that this space will be so much more profitable, and will grow, and we'll get those 5-6x net valuations that people are looking for when we get these drivers in the space. And once we can all do that, and once we all have access to that, then this space will be so much more of a profitable space for everybody. My opinion.
No, I agree with you. I think if you're not good at recruiting, you better outsource that to someone who is, because it's such a core competency that you can't survive without doing it well. And then beyond there, operationally, learning how to watch your numbers, how to manage your fleet, how to keep track of your expenses. It's not brain surgery, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need 10 years of education to run this business. But what you do need to do is look in the mirror every day, and when you're having a problem, and decide what is within my control to fix, what is not, and let me get to work with the stuff I can fix, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And there are some folks who are deer caught in headlights, and we all know what a line haul truck will do to a deer caught in headlights. It's not pretty.
And if they need help, I hope that they reach out. I tend to position myself, supporting the new contractors, because that's where there's a desperate need for my assistance. That's how I can bring the most positivity to this space. Doesn't mean that we can't help any contractors, and just call me. I don't, just call me. I'm not hard to get a hold of. I promise you that. And I can have a 5-minute conversation with you, and I can have a 20-minute conversation with you. I want to make myself available as much as possible.
And I know you're not shy. If you're not the person to help them, you'll tell them who is. It's not
yes.
going to hurt your feelings.
No, definitely not. There are phenomenal, highly intelligent people significantly more successful than I've been in this space. And they are willing to share their advice and their success stories. And a goal of mine is to bring those success stories, same as you, let's engage in these conversations, and let's get people talking and communicating and sharing best practices.
Amen. Amen. I love participating in these education things because I'm curious about it. I want to learn about this space, but I want to help people. That's our mission, is to help contractors. And oftentimes I get pulled into these conversations with folks who aren't a contractor yet. So I love that you create a Linehaul Solutions. I think your heart's in the right place. I think there's a way to do it in an honest, fair, ethical, transparent way where you make some money to keep the business going, but you add an immense ROI to the people who use your services. And I'm delighted that we're taking this time to share this with everyone.
Agreed. And thank you for the opportunity. This was absolutely fantastic. And thank you again, you in general. What you brought to this space lately has been just nothing but positivity. So I know many of the Linehaul contractors agree with me. What you've been able to do has been very much needed, and it's very appreciated amongst the Linehaul contractors.
It is very kind of you to say. I'm just lucky to work with a whole bunch of people who feel the same way and to be part of that team. For folks watching, Rick is available. We're going to put his info beneath the screen when we do this in editing afterwards. My info is going to be there. We'd love to hear from you and help in any way we can. And I would say, Rick, the takeaway from folks watching is do your homework and know that there are people who sincerely want to set you up for success, and you need to reach out and connect with them. You are one of them. I think I'm one of them too. I don't provide nearly the amount of value you do in this process. But please go in eyes wide open and do your homework. And that's your best chance of making a huge return on your investment in this space.
Yes, such a rewarding space. It's taken such good care of me, and I have nothing but positivity to share with people who want to come in and let us guide you through the process. At least have a conversation, and I'll point you in the right direction, or at least not let you go down that dark road that will lead to absolute misery.
Yeah, there's no reason to have to make mistakes and pay full price if you can have someone who can guide you around all those pitfalls.
Yes, sir.
Rick, thank you so much for taking your time today.
Thank you so much. This was fun. Let's do it again.
For sure. For sure. Thanks everyone for watching. We love all feedback. If you've got ideas on what else we should be talking about next, please get in touch with us. Our info will be on the bottom, and have a great day. Bye-bye.